Welcome back to the Important Nonsense Podcast. Pew, 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 pew. Saturday, August 12th. Neil Smith, Mike Burland, and the human pixie stick at that FF nerd, Jason Draven.
Good morning.
Gentlemen, how's it going? Yeah, there it is. Get that can in the camera. He's gonna bury us all, Mike.
Not a sponsor.
Not a sponsor. Just someone Jason thinks is cool. Mike, he'll bury us all. He's pickling his insides. He's
gonna outlive us all.
When Jason dies, they won't have to embalm him. They're just gonna slot him in the casket and just lower it down. There's no prep work needed. It's perfectly preserved. Like, you know how like Lennon, they've got Lennon like mummified in that glass. That's Jason. That's how Jason's gonna go. They're gonna put him under glass. They're not even gonna have to mummify him. They're just gonna put him straight under the glass. It's gonna be perfect. We'll roll him out into the lobby of the Important Nonsense World headquarters, which, as we know, is a storage unit just outside Mesa, Arizona. The gentlemen, a couple quick PSAs before we get into the Vikings, which is what we're here to discuss today. As always, primarily the rankings that we will be using come from Fantasy Pros, from Fantasy Pros ECR, which we are a part of. Shout out to Fantasy Pros. Thank you for letting us be part of our affiliate program. Love working with you. This is based on 12-team PPR redraft format, getting you prepped up for your draft. That'll be happening here in about two to 3 weeks. And all the depth charts that we will be referencing come courtesy of Player Profiler. Thank you, Jack. Appreciate all the hard work as always. Hope you're well. Check us out at importantnonsense.com. Sign up for our Discord. Keep Jason company. Well, technically it is part of Fourth Wall, but the Discord is really a separate thing. I mean, I'm trying not to explain what Fourth Wall is really. They'll find out when they get to the website. It's importantnonsense.com. That's where all of our premium content is and access options to hang out with us throughout the rest of the football season. Sign up for our Discord. Keep Jason company. He's lonely. He needs someone to drink Mountain Dews with. He also is looking for burrito recipes, but Jason's version of a burrito is when you take a fruit roll up and you put gushers in it and then roll it up, and that's a burrito. So if you've got recipes like that, Jason is highly interested. Sign up and talk to him about that. He would love your candy-based recipes, particularly if they involve Sour Patch Kids.
Not wrong. But my favorite, like, if you want to completely just feel grossed out, I really like putting SpaghettiOs into a tortilla. Oh, so good.
Yeah, that grossed me out. Yep, you did it. All right. I did it. All right, cool. Have you seen SpaghettiO Jello?
No, but that also sounds good.
Yeah, you should Google that. It's vile. That's a real thing. That's a real thing, folks. People take SpaghettiOs and turn it into Jello mold and then eat it. And nope.
Doesn't sound that bad.
Mike understands how revolting that is. There you go.
Yeah, that sounds pretty bad.
Yep.
Although I did grow up on the pressed sandwiches with SpaghettiOs in them. So.
Oh, you
Yep.
too. Oh God.
I'm not saying it's good. I'm just saying that's what I was fed. So.
I mean, Vienna sausages. Do you remember those? Cut up.
Yes,
in
that's
half
also vile.
And between 2 slices of bread and some ketchup. That was a meal.
So that's actually how they serve the SpaghettiO Jello. It's like a circular mold with Vienna sausages in the middle. I've now achievement unlocked for Jason. He's going to the store afterwards to get cans of SpaghettiOs, gelatin, and Vienna sausages, and that's going to be his dinner. And he's going to pickle himself. He'll bury us all, just perfectly preserved from the inside out. Oh Lord! All right. Before we'll continue this conversation on another date. For now, let's stop grossing out the audience that is theoretically listening to this, and we'll start talking about the Minnesota Vikings, which is what we're here to do today. Jason, I know it's one of your favorite topics. You hike your khaki pants up, talk about Kirk Cousins. We're finally here. It's pretty hard to have any real meaningful analysis for Kirk Cousins. He's pretty much the QB. He's like right in the middle of that QB page every year. If you're new to fantasy football, this has been a running joke for a long time. Kirk Cousins is exactly average. He is perfectly mediocre. He has kind of become the Mendoza line, which is a baseball reference for fantasy quarterback. He's not great, not bad. He sits right in the middle, and he's not going to win you your
7 to 12 range every year.
Yeah, well, yeah, right. That's finishing ranking. But as far as opening ranking, he's always around 12, 13, something like that, 14. He's right in the middle of that page, and he's not going to win you your league, but he's not going to lose you your league. So you just roll with it. Like he has some good games, some bad games. You get no rushing floor, but he's got a decent arm and he's got good skill position players around him. And this year is no different. Kirk Cousins is the QB 13 in opening ranking, which translates to about 98 overall. His ADP is about 104. And I got to tell you, this is usually about where I'm looking for a QB. Feel like I'm going to have a lot of Kirk Cousins shares.
Yeah, especially with the added weapons and the loss of Dalvin Cook. So feel pretty confident that he'll be exactly what you expect him to be.
Yeah. There is slight maybe upside in terms of, he set a career, not a career year. He threw for 4,500 yards last year, which was second most in his career. And Vikings, I think, threw the ball third most. So,
yep.
And he only had 29 touchdowns, which I think you can easily see that tick up to like 33, 4 or 5 more touchdowns. So, I mean, he's kind of where I like to get the quarterbacks. And he's going QB 13, so that means if you know your league well and you know they're not going to take backup quarterbacks, you might even be able to stretch that out to round 10, round 11. So,
if you're drafting against people that actually play properly and know what they're doing, Mike is correct, because nobody will be taking a second quarterback after everybody has one. If you're getting the last quarterback and that's Kirk Cousins, you should be able to wait a couple extra rounds. If you're playing in your home league with people that don't know what they're doing, this strategy doesn't work so good. It is.
Yeah,
it is
probably picking him the second he can in the 9th or 10th round.
Yeah, you probably want to snag him because he won't hang out. Someone will take a backup quarterback way too early and screw up the whole world over there. Yeah, he's really nice. If you want a security blanket in your quarterback room, if you waited a bit on quarterback, like one of the stacks I find myself getting in certain leagues, depending on how my early draft goes, I've actually done it and double tap Tua and Kirk Cousins. It's like somebody will be healthy. And we'll just rotate them back and forth every week. And it's kind of like 6 in one hand, half dozen in the other. It's kind of like neither one of them's going to win your league, but they're probably not going to lose it for you either. And if something happens to Tua, it's nice to have a nice security blanket with something that I feel good about. So I'm not scrambling around trying to acquire Sam Howell or something like that off the waiver wire. And then I hope he's good. I don't know. Speaking of stupid preseason games you want to mention, Jason, he actually did look pretty good last night, but
yeah,
we'll talk about that.
I was impressed. On the same note, you know who else looked good from Houston? Just saying. Davis Mills actually pulled it out, and I was happy to see.
I was going to say Tank Dell.
Oh, yeah.
I literally was like, Tank Dell looked good. That was the highlight of that game was Tank Dell looked good, but Mills.
All the usage.
Well, no, it's more the separation. Gentlemen, we don't have time to go redo the Houston show. Nor, I'm sorry I even brought up Sam Howell because it opened this door. It's my own fault. I'll endeavor to do better in the future. I forgot who I'm working with. They call him the derailer. That's that guy with his little A hat over there. Like,
hey, if you want to go on a tangent, I'm your man. Let's go.
We actually probably should just rename the Thursday night show to Tangent Man. That's probably actually like Tangent, man, like Tangent Man, or Tangent Man is in like the superhero, which would be Jason. It's got a T. It's just it's but yeah, Kirk Cousins is. No one in your league is going to be like, oh, look at you go. Like no one's going to say anything to you. It's just. It's just like eating your carrots is drafting Kirk Cousins. You hike your khaki pants up a little bit higher, and that's just what you do. Like this is the same advice we give every year. It's kind of funny how many times I've recorded this exact show where you talk about Kirk Cousins, and it's like, yeah, it's great. You mentioned it, Mike. 4,500 yards is nothing to thumb your nose at. You know what I mean? You just get no rushing floor, and I agree with you. 29 touchdowns. If you would have asked me how many touchdowns did Kirk Cousins have last year, I probably would have been like 35-ish. So if he gets 6 more touchdowns, you'd like that, but you ain't never get no more rushing floor. Those days are
no. I think Jefferson was like tackled at the 1. Like they had the most instances where that happened. He was tackled at like the 1 yard line or something. So yeah, I can easily see.
The Lions. So I was just saying we talked about that during the Lions show. They were the also weird statistical example of people being tackled at the 1. Yeah. But yeah, Kirk Cousins, we're all going to recommend Kirk Cousins at his ADP. If you want to wait on quarterback, this is what I find myself dealing with. It's the Tuas and the Kirk Cousinses, and it's fine. Like, you'll be fine. you're not gonna have too many problems. Maybe get 2 if you feel like you want to be super safe. If you want to hike those khaki pants up to your nipples, get 2 of them. Backup quarterback for the Vikings is Nick Mullins.
Like
Only
that.
matters in the sense that if something was to happen to Cousins, it's not a total disaster. Nick Mullins is an NFL player. He's not great, but
He's
it's
willing
kind
to
of
chuck
like
it.
he can chuck it. So he wouldn't crater out all your lovely pass catching weapons. Mike, you mentioned it. The Vikings threw the ball probably the third. I believe it was the third most in the NFL. I believe that's correct from the notes here. Let's talk about running back. You mentioned it. Dalvin Cook, no longer on the team. Cap casualty. Dalvin Cook. Yeah, bye bye.
See ya.
Stay off the Jets. Dalvin, don't you dare screw up my Brees Hall shares. No, go work somewhere else. Go work on the Patriots. Like that. That'll be fine. Like that'll be great. Go do that. Like
Make a
just
lot of
not
people
the Jets.
mad. People were loving Stevenson. That'd make them real upset.
I don't care. That's not my problem. I don't have Stevenson shares. I have Brees
Apparently
Hall
he wants
shares.
a lot of money.
He does want a
That's
lot
what
of
I'm
money,
hearing.
which is
Yeah.
which is probably delusional. But I would want a lot of money too, because who doesn't want a lot of money, Mike? I mean, if it's there, I'll have it.
I mean, I feel like $3 million is a lot of money. So I think it's also perspective
not
there
to
too.
go through that many car crashes. That's not enough per car crash average. You got to get more than that. But that's the NFL market these days. It's not easy out there for a running back. So with him gone, that clears the way for Alexander Mattison. If you're new to fantasy football, Alexander Mattison is basically Dalvin Cook if you kind of squint. It's that type of deal. He doesn't have the top end speed or the burst that Dalvin Cook had historically. In fact, I don't think Alexander Mattison is actually particularly good or efficient.
Not
But
at the ADP. Woof.
he has a lot of volume. That's why we get here. In my opinion, Alexander Mattison is not a particularly good player. He doesn't have a great top end burst. He doesn't not a superior like one cut running back. He's kind of just a plotter. He kind of just he'll plow into the line for you and he'll get some yardage. And if he doesn't get tackled, then he'll break it and he has the ability to run. But Alexander Mattison will thump it into the end zone for you. But it's not sexy watching him play. And I in his career he's not particularly efficient. But this year doesn't matter because he's going to get the lion's share of the touches. He's going to get all that. Pretty much, he's penciled in for all the Dalvin Cook work and possibly some of his old work as well. So as long as he's healthy, he's going to get the majority of the opportunities. And that clearly is why, Jason, you references ADP. He opens as the RB 19. 55 overall is what that should translate to by ranking. He's going at 56. So nobody's super excited. Would you guys feel comfortable taking Alexander Mattison at 56? Would you feel comfortable also with Alexander Mattison as your number one running back?
That's a no.
No.
Not even a little bit.
Not for me. You mentioned it. Yeah, the volume probably should be there. The Vikings used Dalvin Cook many times, over 80% snap percentage in a lot of games last year, but I just don't think he's that good. But volume is king in fantasy football, so I'm not going to fault anyone, but I think I'm going to avoid that ADP. One positive note is he didn't play in the preseason game, so they basically were saying, like, we don't need to see you. We know that you're our guy. So, I mean, man, that's a feather in the cap for Mattison, but no, I'm not. I think I'm going to avoid it at that ADP.
Which is the 5th round for those of you playing along at home.
Yep, middle of the 5th.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, they did have Ty Chandler go, which I was kind of impressed with. But again, it's preseason, so you don't actually know how much that is going to correlate. So it's
all that tells me is that Ty Chandler is the backup.
Yep.
He's going to be your backup. They have some other running backs: Ty Chandler, Keenan Naganu, and Dwayne McBride. None of those folks are draftable. They don't have an ADP. If you really wanted to handcuff Mattison, I think it would be Ty Chandler. We agree on that based on last night's information. But I don't think I care, to be honest, about handcuffing Alexander Mattison. In the past, when it was Dalvin Cook and Alexander Mattison, Mattison was the must handcuff. Like he was one of the short list of must handcuffs. Because if something happened to Cook with his shoulder, you knew they were going to give all the work to Mattison. And that's why I started with, if you kind of squint, He looks like Dalvin Cook out there, but he's not the elite level athlete that Dalvin Cook is.
He
But
also has injury issues. So
he
that's
does.
part of the reason that you want to make sure that you realize
Normally,
Ty
if you
Chandler's
would have told
probably
me
the one you want.
in a normal year, Jason, if you'd have told me Alexander Mattison 5th round pick, I'd be like, sure, because that would presuppose that all the running backs would go at the first, second round, like where they usually go.
Yeah.
So by the time you get to the 5th round, it's like, sure, I'll take Alexander Mattison at that point, but not this year. Not in a year when I can get like Joe Burrow Joe Burrow. I finally did it. I can get Joe Mixon in the 3rd. I can get James Conner in the 4th. I can get
Montgomery
David Montgomery like in the 6th, 7th, 8th round. Like I don't find myself rostering a lot of Mattison because there's just other players that I like slightly before. And if I want somebody that's not as like kind of at his level, there's guys a little bit later. I get James Cook in the 6th. James Cook, I feel like, has some sort of upside, whereas Alexander Mattison, I feel like I know exactly what I'm getting. But there is one reassuring thing similar to Kirk Cousins with Alexander Mattison. I feel like I know what I'm getting. There's very little variation into this. I feel like I know what I'm getting.
Yeah. He doesn't I don't expect a lot of catches. I mean, Dalvin Cook only had 39 in 17 games, and that was with playing 80% of the snaps. That's just not – you think if you're playing that many snaps for every game, you're bound to catch 2 dump-offs a game, right? So, like,
at minimum, you would think.
Yeah. That's essentially what Mattison or Cook got last year. So, I don't know. That it's just – yeah, there's other guys around him I want, and I just don't think he's that good of a player.
There's other guys, there's other guys that are better players and have a higher ceiling at around that price point. So I'm gonna probably let other people deal with Alexander Mattison. But that being said, if you did take Alexander Mattison in the 5th round, I wouldn't be looking at you sideways. I'd be like, yeah. But I referenced, would you be comfortable with him as your number 1 running back for a reason too? Because Dalvin Cook, I think people would agree. Like, yeah, sure, that was a thing for a long time. But also, if you follow some of our competitors' products, Fox was recommending that you draft Alexander Mattison in the 1st round of your fantasy draft, like in the 1 point, whatever. Don't do that. Don't do that. Whatever you do, don't do that. Just as a PSA, that is bad advice and it's wrong. But that was an actual article that was on Fox this week, and it came up when I was preparing for this show, and I'm like, no. It's like, don't do that.
There's only one person on this team that we're taking in the 1st round.
Correct, and it's not Alexander Mattison. It's actually the guy we're going to talk about next, which is Justin Jefferson. He's good. He's good at football. He's talented. There's really not a whole lot to talk about here, folks. Justin Jefferson is the wide receiver 1, should be drafted at 1, and is going at 1. He's pretty much the consensus 1.1 for just about everybody this year because of what he was able to accomplish last year. And I don't see – does anyone see – what's that?
The gritty?
The gritty, yes, because of his gritty ability. Do you work for Nickelodeon?
It's 1.1.
Are you on the slime cam coverage for that NFL game? Like talking about the gritty?
They like that too much.
We should actually get Jason a job at Nickelodeon. He would love that job. He would love that job briefly up until he was fired for saying something horrible. I almost made a joke myself that I specifically asked you not to make. I had to diffuse my own brain. I had to fight myself for a second there. That's what that pause was. I'm sorry, viewers. That I had to reboot the hard drive there for a second. Justin Jefferson, but like I said, the 1.1 for everybody. Does anybody have any dispute for any of that?
Nope, completely understand people doing it, especially with who's around him. I mean, he's in a tier with maybe 1-2 other people.
You could have the argument, I guess, about Jamar Chase or Christian McCaffrey if you wanted to. But I'm not going to
just a wide receiver though. Like just a wide receiver, it's Chase and maybe Kupp would be the next one.
No, I'm good on that.
Okay.
I'd rather go CMC over either of those two just to get the best running back at the position if I was going to do that.
If it wasn't for Kupp's injury, I would have been fine with Kupp as well, just because
that's also the reason for me. It's the injury from last year.
Yeah, but Jefferson.
And by the way, we talked about Rams. I'm knocking Kupp 2 whole spots in ADP
Yeah,
because of his injury,
yeah.
not like a round or anything. So
I don't think Chase belongs there though. Over Jefferson or CMC, he's a clear third for me.
yeah, but he's going at like 2 overall.
Yeah, and that's
So
why
that's why
I
I'm
just
bringing
brought
it
it
up.
up for that reason. I
Yeah,
was like,
I get why we're going there. That's it, it's not a mystery.
this team also lost Adam Thielen last year.
They did.
mean-
We'll get into his replacement here in a moment. But no, if you want to take Justin Jefferson with the number 1 overall pick, I got no issue with that. Given what he was able to do last year and the year prior, and what we expect for this team to be this year, as we talked about, that was the worst 13-win football team possibly ever. They're not really that good of a football team, but they do manage to win games. And Justin Jefferson gets everything: targets, it turns that into huge levels of production. He's got great hands. Like, no notes, make more. Like, love it, love everything about it. If you have Justin Jefferson on your team, you're probably going to be very happy. So, no question about that. He is. It's expensive, but if you've got the coin, go nuts. Replacing Adam Thielen, who is now on the Panthers, is rookie Jordan Addison, who they drafted in this year's draft. I'm very excited about this. I'm not even going to bury the lead. I loved his tape coming out of college. I think he is a fantastic replacement for Adam Thielen. He's really crisp route runner, which is great because you can play. I loved him for Dynasty for that reason, because if you can route run, you can play in this league till you're 40. So for Dynasty, I was very excited. The landing spot is perfect. And as far as rookies go, he's walking onto the field with an established quarterback and an established offense. That it's not sexy, but
and
it
he's not the
usually
one.
It amasses yards. He's not the one, so he gets to play against lesser coverage. And Adam Thielen, we've talked about drafting Adam Thielen for a million years. He's walking right into the Adam Thielen job. He played last night, looked fine.
Yeah.
Didn't do anything amazing, but he only
did
played.
have one catch that they
He had
didn't
one
count
catch.
that looked really good.
Yeah, he had one catch, looked good, and then they sat him down and put him in bubble wrap. And I'm like, perfect. Just do that. Just get him some reps, let him run around a little bit, and then bubble wrap him, and then just sit him down, because he's coming in as the wide receiver 38 for opening ranking, which translates to about 89 overall. His actual ADP, though, is 86. So he's going about 3 spots higher than where he should be by ranking. But don't care. I'm very interested in this, guys. I already kind of touched on that. Do you all share my optimism for Jordan Addison?
Oh, absolutely. My only issue will be later. I am nervous about the whole touchdown issues that I think it could happen here with all of these talents. That's just nobody's going to be a dominant touchdown scorer.
I don't know that I care for an 8th round pick. Top of the 8th round for Addison. I don't necessarily expect my 8th round pick to be a touchdown monster. I kind of just need you to get like 900 yards. I feel like he can do that.
We talked about Thielen gone. That was I think 110 targets.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see, KJ Osborn, I think, had like 90 targets last year. You can see 10, 15 dropping from him going to Addison. Thielen was wide receiver 30 last year.
Yeah.
And
is old.
Average 10.5.
As an old man.
Addison's just so much better. So at this
Adam
point,
Thielen is my age, folks. Like that.
Yep. So yeah, I love it. I love.
Well, I thought he was. He's dealt with injury too there for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Thielen.
Yeah.
He missed the game.
That was a couple years ago. He missed like one game last year, but he was nicked up a little bit. But I think Jason's referring to a couple years ago when he got beat up for a little while there. But we've seen that role have value, the Thielen role. That role always has value, and I was actually expecting, when I was pulling this together last night in preparation for this, I was expecting that the hype train on Addison would be a lot worse than it is, and I wouldn't be able to roster it. But 8th round pick, I'm fine with it. So that's about what you were paying for Thielen historically, and he's way younger and a better athlete at this point. So it's like,
people are always hesitant with rookies, like even
are they? Are they? Because how many rookies have we talked about getting overhyped over the last? And how many do we have on this show sheet for the next couple days? Are they really? Hasn't it about rookies?
It's easy to be like, even people are questioning, like, is Bijan, should he be a first rounder because he's a rookie? That's the only reason why. Like, there's always questions.
Sir, that is not a comparable argument. You're talking about a first round pick versus an 8th round pick.
I mean, look at Jamar Chase, and people were worried about, oh, you can't catch the ball because it doesn't have white stripes. And
that was the
he
dumbest.
going in the 5th.
We're gonna derail. Now you're derailing me. Now you're the derailer.
This is.
I remember that
how
argument.
people
I
feel.
remember that argument. It was it was one of the
stupid. It's
stupidest things I've
dumb.
ever heard in my entire life.
People are gonna.
It's harder to see.
They're gonna have a discount on rookies because they're like, well, I haven't
Nope,
seen it.
Not all. Okay, Mike. No, they don't. Not always. Not always. Some rookies get way inflated. What about Gibbs?
CEH.
CEH. Like there's always rookies that get overinflated. Like it's not, you don't always get a discount.
And there's always and there's a lot of times that rookies are they don't appreciate them as much. I just think of all the guys last year that where they were going, and how many rookie receivers made an impact last year. It's over the stretch, maybe not the whole season, but they were all discounted. So
my argument is not about whether or not you can get rookies at discounts. My argument is with the supposition that rookies are always discounted. That's what I'm challenging you on. It is not. It is not.
I mean, okay, of course.
Nothing's Bijan's still going really high.
Yeah, but you can make the argument that Bijan should go even higher, but he's not because he's
actually
a rookie.
I would have that conversation with you, and we might actually have that conversation on the wrap-up show, but not here because that will drag this show out. Because that would be an interesting topic to go through because you could Mike successfully make that argument. I'm sure that theoretically he should actually be going at like the 1.5, like or even higher than that potentially based on how fantasy football has worked historically years on years on years and what your theoretical top end of it is. I get that. I get where you're going there. Unfortunately, if we dive all the way into that with statistical analysis, the show will be 2 hours long. And we're not even talking about the Falcons. So to put a fine point on it, Jordan Addison is an 8th round pick. We all are going to agree that's a circle. Take it to the bank. You'll be happy with that. That's not even what his ceiling is. KJ Osborn was referenced. KJ Osborn is still the wide receiver 3 on this team to the extent that it matters. He opens as the wide receiver 65, translates to about 166 overall is where he should be going. He's going at 162. I've never been a fan of KJ Osborn, really. He's not bad. It's just he doesn't do anything for me. And he would be because of the tight end we'll get into here to wrap up in a moment, he'd be the 4th target on this team, 5th maybe, for KJ Osborn. I mean, you guys brought it up in the pre-show that he had some level of value last year. I'm not debating that. Like he'll catch some passes. He's a flex. You do this to me all the time where you just say everyone is a flex, and very often I have to argue with you about this. But
last year he's a wide receiver 41.
In this, I was just gonna say, in this case, I think you are in the clear where he actually would technically be a flex.
But he was wide receiver. I'm seeing 45, and he played every game.
It's somewhere in the mid 40s. Just go with that. It doesn't matter, like because you're not gonna draft KJ Osborn, and people are gonna be like, "Ooh."
That is 20 spots higher than he's being ranked right now. So,
he might be on the waiver wire show, but. If one of these
he's being drafted. KJ Osborn is being drafted. 162 overall is like a 14th, 15th round pick. I mean, he's being drafted. I'm not really interested in drafting him though. If someone else wants to draft him, go ahead. But I agree with you, Mike. I'd wait for KJ Osborn to hit the waiver wire in a couple weeks and then pick him up if it was something you were really interested in. He's also, to me, he's almost like the rare wide receiver handcuff. If I was getting way in on Jefferson, you probably don't want Jefferson and Addison because that's too expensive. There's too much overlap. But if you wanted to get Osborn, because if something was to happen to Jefferson to hedge your bet, I wouldn't balk at that. I'd be like, okay, sort of makes sense because it's cheap enough. And if something was to happen to Jefferson, Osborn would get a pretty serious value increase. He'd be the next man up. So if you want to put a 14th, 15th round pick on the line for it, okie dokie. But yeah, he'll probably be on your guys' waiver wire show on Monday before too long. At some point there. The other wide receivers are Jalen Reagor, who's knocked around the league for a million years. Don't draft Jalen Reagor, and he's not being drafted. Don't get suckered in by that stupid preseason game where he was playing for no reason. And then Jalen Naylor, which same advice. Don't worry about that. That's nothing you need to worry about, really. TJ Hockenson is back. And TJ Hawkinson's a lot better than Kyle Rudolph. So now you have like an actual tight end on this team. So TJ Hockenson came in. It was last year, right, guys? That he was
like
traded over. Yeah,
Middle of the season.
Middle of the season, traded from the Lions to the Vikings. Tells you everything that you need to know
A
about.
lot of
what the
value
Lions-
very quickly too.
It tells you everything also that you need to know about what the Lions actually thought of TJ Hockenson, that they were willing to let him go in the season in division. So they get TJ. So TJ Hockenson, to Jason's point, shows up pretty much immediate value train. Kirk Cousins is no dummy. He's more than happy to just dump it off to Hockenson over the middle of the field over and over and over again. And he looks for him in the red zone. And it's reflected accordingly on here. TJ Hawkinson's the number 3 tight end off the board. Should be going around 61 overall. He's going at 47. Pretty much ensures that I will never roster TJ Hockenson, because at 47 overall, that's too much. That's too much for me.
Yep. It's way too expensive. He's interesting because he averaged 12.7 points. He only hit that above that 4 times because he had 2 huge games.
Mm-hmm.
I could see him doing exactly what he did last year. I'm not even worried about like the Addison necessarily affecting him.
No,
I can still see
because
him.
Thielen was there, so why do I care?
Yeah,
they all
exactly.
coexisted before, so
he's just not a difference maker at the position enough to be drafted in the 4th round. He is a difference maker, but not enough to be where he's drafted at.
I'd rather get him like 2 rounds later than where his current ADP is going, and then I'd probably be a little bit better with it, honestly.
I agree.
You mean where he's supposed to be ranked?
Roughly, broadly
Yeah.
speaking. That's not 2 rounds, it's 1 round, but I'd prefer an extra round behind the 60s. Like in the 70s somewhere, I'd be like, okay, that sounds about right. But that's never going to happen. You're never going to get that. Someone's going to pounce on that way before. My advice is let him. Don't feel bad about it. Just let him go. The other tight end is Josh Oliver. Means nothing for fantasy purposes. So there's no replacing Hockenson.
Grab Osborn.
Yeah,
Get
right.
Oliver.
Yeah. Get. I agree with that. Get KJ Osborn. If something was to happen to TJ Hockenson, KJ Osborn would actually probably have more value. But yeah, that's kind of it in a nutshell, guys. There's no real deep sleepers on this team. I honest to God, just to sum up here, I really believe the Vikings are going to look a lot like they did last year. It's going to be a bad team and masquerading as a good team. They're going to win games. Their division is crap. Speaking as someone who's a fan of one of the teams in that division,
yep,
they're crap.
Bad defense, good offense.
Bad defense. Their secondary was so pathetic last year that it was laughable. I don't think they did enough to fix that. Same coaching staff. Nothing's going to change.
I'd be curious about their pace of play. I think their pace of play might be a little quicker because of the lack of Cook.
Well, it might be quicker also because their defense just sucks. And so they get into a lot of shootouts.
Well, that's already been happening.
I know, but I mean, even more. Like, just keep it, because now they can't even establish the run as well as they used to. So it just, to your point about that. So it's going to look a lot like it did last year, folks. And that's fine for fantasy purposes from where I'm sitting, because that was valuable. It's ugly. And it's maddening to watch, actually, from a real football perspective, because it's like, how can you be winning this game when you're so bad? But there it is. They're winning. Like, it's, it is what it is. So Kirk Cousins, perfectly fine with him at ADP. I prefer Mattison a little bit lower, but it's okay if that's what you want to do. Jefferson, wheels up. Addison, wheels up. I'm not a fan of Osborn, but I get why he's being drafted. And then TJ Hawkinson's overinflated. Beyond that, there's nothing else on this team. Like, I don't care about anything else on it. And if people did start getting hurt, I think it would devolve very rapidly, because they've got a decent team as constructed, but it's not a deep team.
Yeah. That's all. That's all you really need to say. You're good.
Yep.
So
like with fantasy gold mine.
Yeah, right. It is kind of the fantasy gold mine in a lot of ways. It reminds me of like the crappy Bengals. Like, this is like the Wish, as Mike Manning would put it, this is the Wish version of the Bengals. That's what this looks like. It's the Bengals without all the excitement and talent. But it's just good enough on the graph paper that we're playing on here. It's good enough. So they'll probably win the stupid division again, and no one will know, and then they'll get
have double-digit wins.
Yeah, they'll get pantsed in the playoffs, like really embarrassingly, and then we'll do it all again next year, because that's this team.
They had a negative point differential last year.
I know they won 13 games. Yeah, won 13 games. Didn't matter. Made no difference. That's why I was saying it was one of the worst 13-win teams I've ever seen in my entire life. It was
Yep.
just embarrassing how bad they actually were, but they won 13 games.
Well, and a
And they
lot of
put
them
up
were
a
on
lot of
like
points.
last second place too.
They put up a lot of points. So should be about the same this year. So with that, we'll break it there. That's everything you need to know about the Vikings. And then tune in tomorrow for, boy, how the mighty have fallen. Tune in tomorrow for the New England Patriots. But until then, keep up the keep up the nonsense.
I'm Tim Kitzer from NBA Jam and NFL Blitz, and you can find all the guys at ImportantNonsense.com. Kaboom!